I'm going to review files today, and probably some of you are thinking, why review files? You know, files you can, or a file's a file, and that's really not true. I've had a bunch of different files, as you can see here. I've gone through, lost some, replaced some. The best thing to do as you get going, go over to Harbor Freight and get a set of their cheap files. These files actually have pretty good cuts, and are just good general files for doing a lot of different tasks. You know, if you need to enlarge a hole, they've got the hole file. If you're looking to take an edge in a triangle, you can do that. If you're doing fretwork, they've got the straight edge. These files work really well, and they've got a handle. They're really nice, and they're really cheap. So as you get going to Harbor Freight is a great resource to buying some files and some cheap tools. You know, sometimes you don't want to invest in the really expensive tools if you don't know what you're doing. But if you're going to get a set of files, going over to Harbor Freight, is a good starting process. What I've done is I've made some custom fretting tools. So this fret tool puts, a flat edge on, and then this takes the bevel. I took a Nichols file, cut off the edge here, slotted this on my table saw, and then I epoxied this in. And this helps me do the sides and the edges of the fret. I needed this file so much that I ended up buying another file. Same size, so I've got other ones. This Nichols file, it's a round, rough gouge, and then a smoother side. I originally had lost this file at one point. I bought another one. And this file, the rough edge is good for taking curves out or getting really aggressive. And then the smooth side is good for roughing out those edges. So I use this file a lot as I'm carving necks. I kind of prefer files when I'm carving necks sometimes because of the control and the rate of wood removal versus a spoke shave. These are these new Dragon files that Stu Mac is carrying, and these are unbelievable. The cutting on this file is top notch. I bought this from Stu Mac a couple months ago. Didn't think it was worth the investment, and for carving necks, this thing cuts like butter. It is unbelievable. You can put an edge off really quick, very smooth. It's a really good motion. Really cuts nicely. The wood does not stick in it. It's easy to clean, and it really takes off a significant amount of shavings quickly. I really enjoy using this file when I'm carving necks. Really happy I bought this. It's a little bit pricey, but well worth it. And then as you're carving necks and you need to do a real fine spot, I bought this from Stu Mac as well a while ago. This will help with your planes when you're using those convex planes, really to leave more of a curved edge, or if you really want to dig in a certain spot. This is a really nice file, the curve file. And then stole this from my father-in-law. This is a kind of a carpenter's roughing file, and this is good as you get going. Really, really aggressive removal. You can really do some damage to a piece of wood with this really quickly. Huge cuts. This thing never gets loaded up, and this will really go to town. So as you're getting started, this is a specialized tool. I think they use this for when you're roughing out 2x4s. I use this just as a starting point sometimes. So files can be tricky. This Dragon file from Stu Mac is great. If you were going to buy one file, I would probably just buy this Nichols file at Home Depot or Lowe's or whatever. This Stanley Surfform is very close to a file. It has that same aggressive property. Just got a different handle, different feel. The Surfform is nice, when you're doing necks. This is another way to carve a neck. This thing doesn't load up. The shavings go through. It's very similar to a file in that sense. It's just got a different properties and different handle. It's almost like a plane to some degree, but you got a little bit more control, and it's not going to be as aggressive in the shavings that it takes. So this is another way to carve a neck that is very similar to a file. Additionally, Stu Mac sells a lot of different files for fretting or putting your nut in. This Stu Mac file is really helpful in getting your nut seated correctly. It's got a real coarse edge on one side and a real fine edge on the other. So as you're putting in a Gibson or a Strat Telecaster type of nut, this will help get the nut to seat properly in the wood. This is, definitely essential if you're doing a lot of custom nut work. Then they have the files for doing the nut cutting. These are great other than the fact that Stu Mac doesn't mark what side of the file is each thickness, so you got to get a set of calipers out and make sure you've got the right side. It's kind of a pain, but these are really good when doing, the adjustments on a nut. These are pretty critical. You really can't do nuts without having these specific files. These files are really invaluable if you're doing nuts. You just can't get any nut work done. They have nut saws, but at the end of the day, you still need to file it down and be able to take the proper depth on